Right. This is an incredible panel because we actually managed to find 4 very active corporate VCs representing big utilities in Europe. And they all have an important story to tell. And we give each of you a little opportunity to do a 1-minute pitch. And Arnout, filling in for Hendrik, is pitching to get started Engie New Ventures.
Sure.
Engie New Ventures.
Engie New Ventures, indeed. So a French company, but a global company. And to show that I'm Dutch, I'm not French, but I'm here to welcome you all to this wonderful city of Paris, of course. So Engie, we already had a short introduction, very big company, over 70 countries where we're active, 155,000 employees, but indeed, as was mentioned this morning, actually a very local footprint. So we work very close together with our customers and with the people that are partners and our startups as well. So Engie New Ventures, maybe a little bit of a story about that. So we have a fund of about 160 million euros. We invest in startups that are ready to grow internationally, and we try to help them by providing them partners, investments, but also real business opportunities. And for this, we worked close together with our business units, and that's our real differentiator. We are ready to create new businesses, to create new companies, actually, to work together with our portfolio companies. It's nice to see some of them here as well. Sigfox was already here on stage. We will have Connected Energy later on, and maybe some companies you might know. For example, Kiwi Power, doing demand-side management in the UK. Another great example of collaboration is Service. It's a company that is providing home services through their platform, and we're developing those kind of platforms here in Europe really closely together with them and really trying to build their companies into huge successes. So our team here is based in Paris and in San Francisco. We also have a minor office in Tel Aviv, in Israel, to seek out potentially global startups to work together with Engie and to grow into a successful opportunity, focusing on not only the old traditional energy services, but also in the new, for example, mobility solutions, city solutions, smart cities. We provide a lot of services next to the energy that we provide to our customers, developing, ranging from electrical vehicle charging to passenger information on railway stations, services for these installations. So it's a very broad scope, actually. So yeah, looking for these kind of investment opportunities, of course, here. I already saw also some companies active in gas innovations, which is maybe not so much a topic that's usually in the spotlight, but it's definitely very important to us, of course, as gas is still one of our major activities.
Philipp, how do you bring innovation into Aeon? What's the trick and your activity?
Good question. So for Aeon, I'm heading both innovation scouting and co-investment, which is a bit later stage, and also an accelerator. And I wouldn't say it's an USP, because here, I think on this panel, we have 3 good examples of, to my understanding, how you should do venture. That is really connecting closely with the business. And since I'm heading the later stage part, I make it even a condition that at the time of investment, we have a clear commercial agreement in place, because it's too complicated in an industry that is running through continuous restructuring to chase colleagues and to tell them, okay, we have here an investment, please do business with them, because they will come up with a list of 1,000 reasons why not to do so. You have to make them part of the story from the beginning. I don't care if in the end they say we have spotted the solution, even reported to them, as long as this is really bringing commercial traction that is sustainable, because on the back of this, we will certainly then also have a good financial performance of the portfolio.
Tell us a little bit about Aeon Agile. You are running it now too.
Yeah, that's now since 3 months, early stage accelerator, providing a 3-month program. Quite interesting, because you get 22K for free, some training, very much now also based on the experience gathered during 5 years. So it was done with Google before. We now decided to do that on our own, because we think that we have the network of trainers, and we also know better about what is necessary for the utility world than Google does. And I think this is for all of you something you really need to watch out for. is the quality of the commercial contact really that what you're looking for? Yeah.
Stefan, Statkraft Ventures, you are pretty new still,
right.
but you are very active.
That's
Give
right.
us a little pitch.
That's right. So Statkraft itself is like the largest producer of renewable energy in Europe. And we are the venture capital fund, completely independent of Statkraft. So they are our 100% owner, but we are operating independent of them, and we see ourselves as a financial investor. So we were started in 2015, made 7 investments since then. Our fund has a size of 100 million, and we manage it with 4 investment managers. We actually made or saw one of our investments at one of the Ecosummit events about 2 years ago at Amsterdam. Parkbee, a parking operator based in the Netherlands. And yeah, this also shows why Ecosummit is the place to be for startups within the electrical or energy sector to find good relationships to the venture capital scene.
Yme, you are the head of corporate venturing, and you have done a couple of important startup investments. We saw it, Next Kraftwerke, Termondo, one of the...
Also spotted at the Ecosummit, huh?
Yeah, spotted at the Ecosummit, you know, eternal friendship, I told you about it before. But why is Germany so important for the Dutch utility Eneco?
Because I like you so much, huh? So I like the Germans, no? So why? I think a lot of the scale at which German startup companies are innovating is just different compared to our small home market. So I think we need to look outside of just the Dutch market, both in, let's say, acquiring customer portfolios to which we can deliver all kinds of new innovations, like we do in Germany, for instance, or in Belgium. So we have to look outside. There's not enough, I think, interesting companies at scale that we can invest in, that we can work with to make, let's say, the transformation of Eneco towards a new kind of utility happen. And then Germany makes a lot of sense. I think I would expect us to look more and more into France as well for basically the same reason. And, you know, I see quite a bit of examples that yeah, maybe we should be looking at. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, not just to focus on the Dutch market.
Let me ask you a personal question, because he is an entrepreneur. He has an exit experience. He worked for an accelerator called Rockstart, running smart energy. Then he joined the impact investor Dune Foundation. Why the hell did you join Eneco?
Well, yeah, that's a question I get a lot. Because it's by far the most fun place to be active in this business, by being able to both work with the companies we invest in, you know, help build their businesses in a way that I simply cannot do as an entrepreneur, or, well, I could, but in a different way, or as purely a financial investor. You know, I found the purely financial investing to be, well, a little bit boring. You know, you put in the money, you look at the financials, and then you wait and see in a way. So I really have the need or urge to work with these companies, and at least in Holland, yeah, it's by far the best place to work at that intersection of a big business, of startups, investments, working with entrepreneurs. So that is why. Yeah.
Now I have a question for all 4 of you. Have you already co-invested in the same startup? Anybody of you?
Yeah, we have in Termondo. So
Termondo?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who entered first?
Oh.
I wasn't there, but it was us.
Yeah.
So you did one co-investment.
Yeah, it was not at the same time, but well, I think you participated in our round as well. But yeah, so it was indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other guys, already any co-investment?
Not yet, but I mean, we are looking forward to co-invest with you, and maybe with one of our next investments. Yeah.
But there are relationships. I think you guys, at least Statkraft, works with some of the ventures we invested in. Of course, Engie Electrabel in Belgium, they distribute our tone, the smart thermostat called Box. So there's lots of relationship, not necessarily just investing or co-investing.
I find it important for the startups in the room that if they go for corporate VCs with an energy utility background, that they not only go for one, but several, to really build a multi-utility syndicate. And I think the secret goal of this panel, and I think we are making progress, is fostering co-investing among utilities in Europe. Let me ask you the question, what are the key technology areas that are relevant for the future of your utilities, one after the other? Why don't you start, Yme? What is the hottest technology areas where you can create new business models on top of it?
I don't know. I don't necessarily think we look at it from the technology perspective. So in the end, the technology is an enabler for something else. I think that the hardest... In a way, we have two main focus areas this year, I would say. One is e-mobility, and I think that's the easier one. that sounds a bit weird, but easier one. The other one is smart home, and there it's not so much about the technology. There's lots of technologies, but this really is about, are indeed end users, customers, is the time there, like the NetApmo guy said, I think, is it really now the time to enable that smart home, to deliver the kinds of services that are, the promise of many years already? It's more about that, finding those right angles to deliver these kinds of compelling services that people really want, and then finding the enabling technologies to make it happen. But I think too much we have been focusing on the technology first, and not necessarily seeing how that translates into real compelling services that people want. So I'm trying to do it the other way around.
And you, Stefan, what are the hot technology, the hot areas in the hot market segments where you want to have a portfolio company running for you?
Yeah, there are a couple of sectors that we actually look at, making grid smarter, looking for companies that actually make utilities redundant, and even if it's Statkraft, so that is like the startups that we are looking for. In this decentralized world, we are also looking for security companies that make those decentralized assets more secure. We look also at electromobility. So there are a lot of sectors that we actively look at, but what we are mainly looking for are companies that have found an urgent need in the market that we don't know yet of, and a solution for that. So if you're a company that offers something like that, I would be keen to talk to you, and so that's what we are looking for.
Tell me briefly about Zolan, a Berlin-based startup, what they are doing, and I think they are doing something which at the first sight doesn't look so innovative, but then if you look more closely how they do it, and how they are growing, it all of a sudden becomes very innovative.
That's right. So it's basically a commodity that they are installing on the rooftop. So it's photovoltaic, but they do it online as an e-commerce company with their own installation base. For them, their competition is actually like all the small installers all over Europe, and all those installers don't have an edge in marketing. But if you're going nationwide, or if you're even going international, that's easier for you to really go out and do real marketing for your company, and that's what they are doing. So they are more or less following the Dell approach. You are able to configure your solar installation online. You directly get a quote for the system, and it will be installed within a couple of weeks on your rooftop, and you're done. That's it. So it's as easy as that.
And interestingly, most of the projects or systems that are being sold are sold together with the battery system.
That's right.
It makes economic sense, right?
Exactly. So it's really starting to make sense right now. And like you said, I mean, you're really good informed.
My job.
That's right. So in fact, most of the solar installations are installed with batteries. It's starting with electric chargers already. So a couple of customers are asking for that. It's nice to see it developing in that way.
Philipp, what are the areas that get you excited, that get you interested, very interested, or super interested in joining a startup? And I think you also made a recent investment, right?
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, if I would be asked by my management, I would say PV, EV, home energy management systems, because this is really the areas where we work on, and they want to understand that we are looking into this. Here, I would say I'm looking really for the use cases on top of what we have as the existing. That might be a smart meter. We had somebody from Kiwi Grid before here on scene. That's an area where they are very active. We are looking onto things that can really make an offer better. And the most recent investment we did was announced, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago, was into Side Machine, a Californian company that is enabling us to provide to our customers a digital twin of a full production line in very short time and high accuracy. And this allows us to go beyond a simple energy efficiency offer. Because the understanding is clearly that in B2B, at least for large-scale customers, you cannot really win an offer anymore with a simple energy efficiency offering. So it's really going beyond. And this is why, and there I'm honest to my management, I always say, please let us have a broad scope. We want to look into what we call the unknown unknowns, certainly again, with having direct business impact. And it's quite difficult balance to keep, but it's also one that keeps you awake.
Yeah, I mean, I can actually build on that, if you may. I think what we are seeing right now in the space that we are all active is that a lot of the new technologies and new business models are becoming already mainstream. More and more adoption is taking place. There's really a cultural shift towards this decentralized, digitalized world, which is very good. And then we, as a VC, we need to be ready for the next step, actually. So the step behind the first steps that we are taking together. And we need to be part of that cultural shift as well, which is very important, and take our companies with us in that journey. And then if you talk about technologies, and we'll talk about connected energy later on, they're already solving the next generation of problems, which is, okay, we all have an EV, we all have an electric vehicle. What are we going to do with the batteries once the first life is ended? And we're already looking for the solutions that will come up right after that.
I want to ask all of you a simple question because we have a lot of entrepreneurs in the room. Let's give them a little bit of advice how they should pitch to you. Okay, what do you want to see in the pitch? What information is the most important information? What is actually bringing their pitch deck, you know, to the top?
Well, I think for me it would be that they really have to understand why we need to be the investor in them. And so try to understand our challenges, our ambitions, and how they can work for them. So if they just come to me and say, hey, this is the funding I need, and this is my plan, and they don't understand the way we try to invest, so not being purely a financial investor, then that doesn't really work out. So my advice would be try to really, get into my skin and understand what challenges we have and how that can work together.
Nowadays, the modern entrepreneur in energy, are they doing their strategic homework that you are looking for? Are they coming well prepared?
Not necessarily, but I do think they are getting used to it. So they're quite good able to make the switch after the first conversations. But I think it would already help to do the homework before that.
Yeah, so watching Ecosummit TV is really a good way to do the homework. Yeah. Stefan, what is the advice you give, and what do you want to see to get you excited about a startup?
So the two things that we basically want to see is a need in the market. So they should really have identified something which is asked for by customers. And the second thing probably is, as we are actually a financial investor, are KPIs. So we are mainly looking for KPIs that show, okay, the money that we invest into those companies is invested in a good way, and they already know how to spend it, and they can prove that with their most recent history. So that's basically what we would be looking for.
And you want to see revenues, right? Have you ever done...
Not necessarily revenues.
Revenue investments?
Yeah, we did that. So that was, for example, with Depsys. We invested when they basically had like 3 pilot customers.
Okay.
And as of today, they got like 30 customers on a worldwide basis, paying huge amounts to Depsys. So that is what we actually also do. In forms of KPIs, what we are looking for is something where they can show us that the solution is developing in the right way. And it doesn't have to be revenues, because, I mean, we are also investing in Series A. There isn't that much revenue at that stage. But most of the time, there are KPIs where they can really show that there could be traction.
Philipp, it gets more difficult now to come up with a new thing that you are looking for, but I know that you are creative.
It's not even about being creative. So building on what Yme said, I think it's also about being humble in a certain way. So I know when you're pitching in an event like this, you need to have the unique solution. You need to be far better than your competitors. But when it comes to the commercial approach, there we need really something where we can do a fact-based discussion, where we can be very transparent, open, name the challenges. So I think you need to switch very quickly to a mode where you say, we are now working jointly on a common solution, and we need to address the challenges. Sometimes I feel that the weaknesses are still a bit hidden, and we need to discover that, and that is time, cost, and energy consuming, and can even lead, didn't happen so far, but to a real loss of credibility. So I think it's really about understanding what is necessary in which phase, and this then can create really something where both parties are winning a lot. Yeah.
Arnout,
Right.
What are you looking for in startups?
In the end of the line,
how they can
no, it's just to add to what has already been said, which of course makes sense to me as well. But to me, it's really about creating a partnership. It's actually, almost like getting married to these startups and really build this transparent and open relationship that you're looking for, and to both understand what you can offer and what you cannot offer, and not to be too depending on each other as well. So it's finding the right balance. And finding this personal connection as well between what you can offer and what we can offer, basically.
Another interesting part of corporate venturing where you are a minority shareholder is M&A. And this utility over there, Engie, you made a couple of acquisitions, right? You bought EVBox, Solar Direct, Green Charge in the US. But did you already buy one of your minority portfolio companies and then upgraded them to full ownership? And do you think it is likely to happen or rather not?
That's an interesting question. It's a question I get more often, by the way. So far, we are still a young fund, but we haven't made an exit to Engie. By the way, we also have an impact fund at Engie. We did Phoenix International, which was acquired. It's an energy access company in Africa. Which was acquired by Engie. And by the way, the examples that you give from M&A are also from the activity that we do as a venture capital team to be out there in the ecosystem and to understand and know the companies that are out there. And by this, of course, there can be a decision by the group to say, okay, yes, we want to acquire this company because it's so essential to us. It would not be my team, but of course, we're well connected in the group at the right level as well. Just to answer your question straight, is it our strategy to say this is the first step towards M&A? No, we have an open exit strategy. We are a separate fund. We're a venture capital fund in the end. We need to think about our financial return. We need to think about our exit strategy, but we don't define up front it's going to be M&A afterwards.
And Philipp, in your case, do you think it is likely that Aeon trying to become a technology company, acquiring technology startups with good business models, of course, in your portfolio?
Yeah, I think it's getting more and more likely. So what we are facing is you have all these utilities that brought innovation with startups as one of the parts in the innovation toolbox now into the groups in different models. And I think we also have this open strategy, so many exit solutions. But what I see is that the guys who are evaluating now also new solutions tend to leave a bit the traditional way. So if you have a startup probably on the brink of being profitable, some revenues, you see the multiples in the market, that was a no-go for most of the controllers and M&A guys, which took the decision in the end. This is why I would lead such a discussion also first very much internally until we have a clear go before approaching a startup and going there with a fully fledged due diligence team, which is like 3 times the size of the startup itself. And blocking then all operations for some months. But I see that this is now something where we see for very distinct solutions, where we think that is not a supplier relationship anymore. We need to own it, that this is coming, and I expect a first deal over the next 18 months.
Okay. Would you be involved with your own team in that, or at least generating the best leads for targets?
Yeah, for the lead generation, I mean, every investment we do is a potential target. Yeah. If not, we wouldn't invest. On the other hand, what is then certainly also necessary is that we keep clear Chinese walls, A, to operations, and B, also to such considerations in order to leave us also in our role, because we usually take a board seat, as the gentleman here as well, and we are there to really protect and drive the startup forward, and are not there sitting to only have then Eon interests on our mind.
What about in the case of Eneco?
Well, we both did, let's say, spin out, so the opposite in a way of things. And but I think I agree with Philipp that I would also expect that it's fairly likely that something like that will happen. That a current, let's say, minority investment will turn out to be also a full acquisition. But there, it's really about the timing. There's a reason why we now do the minority investments, because the companies are in a certain phase. You really want to keep the entrepreneurs, with a big drive going forward to grow the company. And then at the same time, you have the risk that by the time you think, okay, now it's ready, that somebody else buys it. But so that really is about timing and finding that balance.
And Eneco did a very important acquisition already, right? You bought a company called QB.
Yeah.
That is a competitor to Tado and NetAtmo. And you really decided to acquire that company because it became so important for you to majority own it?
Well, so yes, the reason why we acquired it was because it was so important to us, but it also had to do with the context of that company on that given moment. I don't think, in another situation, we might not have bought it in full, but we have, given the situation at that time. And so at that time, it was a good idea to do it, but you see what I just tried to explain, it's still a fairly early stage company. We have a successful product in Holland, now in Belgium and in Spain, but, to conquer the world, you need real entrepreneurs doing that, and that's difficult if it's 100% owned by a utility. So keeping that balance in place is important. So
are you going to spin it out again?
Who knows? Who knows? Yeah. That's
people call it a boomerang, right? You throw the startup away, and then it comes back to you after some years.
I don't. You never rule out anything in this case. So you have an objective. You want the company to be very successful, and if that's it, sometime means that we have to spin it out, or then that's it. But so I have nothing to announce there, but it could be.
I have something to announce. Let's have lunch, okay? Thank you very much. Hey, thank you.